Native Americans were arrested, jailed, and had their children taken away for practicing their own religion on their own land until 1978. Yes, 1978, which means your parents or grandparents were alive when it was illegal for indigenous people to pray the way their ancestors had for thousands of years. Ready to find out how the country that claims to be founded on religious freedom made it a crime for Native Americans to practice their spiritual ceremonies for nearly 100 years? From the 1880s through 1978, the U.S. government banned indigenous religious practices, including the sun dance, sweat lodges, potlatch ceremonies, vision quests, and even possession of sacred objects like eagle feathers. People were arrested, fined, and imprisoned just for participating in spiritual traditions that had sustained their communities for millennia. The Bureau of Indian Affairs enforced a Code of Indian Offenses that criminalized Native ceremonies, calling them heathenish practices that needed to be eliminated to force assimilation into Christian American culture. Elders were jailed for conducting traditional funerals, families lost children to boarding schools for teaching ceremonial songs, and sacred items were confiscated and sold to museums. The sun dance, one of the most important ceremonies for Plains nations, was completely banned from 1883 to 1934, forcing practitioners underground for over 50 years. Imagine if the government banned Christian communion or Muslim prayer for half a century. Full religious freedom didn't come until the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978. Which finally acknowledged that indigenous people had the same First Amendment rights as everyone else. But even after 1978, access to sacred sites remained contested. Use of peyote in ceremonies was still prosecuted in some states, and it took additional legislation in 1994 to fully protect religious practices. The same government that put "In God We Trust" on currency was simultaneously arresting Native Americans for praying to their own creator in their own way, on their own land. Indigenous spiritual leaders were forced to practice in secret and risk everything to maintain traditions. Colonizers were trying to erase through legal force. This wasn't ancient history. This was happening while Star Wars was in theaters, while the country was celebrating its bicentennial and talking about liberty and justice for all, proving how recently indigenous people were denied basic constitutional rights. Even now in 2025, sacred sites like Bears Ears, Oak Flat, and the Black Hills are still threatened by development and mining. Indigenous people are still fighting for the right to practice their